All right, so you've done it. At this point, you're at the second item in the first week, and you've hopefully learned a lot already. And we are ready to jump into more content. So, for Thursday's item, three of them, we have your lecture first. Now, this lecture, I've actually sourced a new video this year for this particular assignment. And this is really that roadmap, classic roadmap. Like if you've done YouTube searching and all, you've seen many roadmaps for how to become a web developer. And I looked through a couple, and this one was one that I thought was pretty good. Mostly, honestly, the content was really what I liked. And so remember, by the way, if you're looking at YouTube within the browser here, sorry, within Canvas, right? You can turn on and off closed captions, but you can also click on the YouTube and it'll take you directly to YouTube, which is nice. Now, one of the reasons in this case you might want to do this, and I'm going to suggest you do this, is if I come in here and I hit show more, there's timestamps for the topic. So, what I'd want to see, because you're going to take notes here and you're going to take notes on the entire video, is these would be your major headings, and then within those headings at least a couple of bullet points or number, right, ordered or unordered list around some of these topics. And I think this is just a good summary of things you need to learn when looking at web developer, understanding the front end versus the back end, understanding hosting. What's cool is you're already learning some of this stuff, version control in this class. You're going to learn terminal, basic tools you're going to use several he talks about. So what's cool for me, I hope, and for you, is that you're already learning some of these things. Okay, so the file you create, and again, I'm not going to go over where you do this, but just to tell you, it's in your private repo under the lectures directory, right? And it's week 2 Thursday.md, and in there, do your notes and then submit this, right? Submit assignment, giving the URL. So at this point, I'm hoping that that's a process you've become more comfortable with. If not, refer back to last week. Now, this item is our hands-on assignment. This one is one that is really important because this site is going to be your project zero, your final project for this class. And so getting this set up correctly is really important. And so this is just setting it up. So we've been using GitHub to store files, create files, right? We've been using it for within the course organization I've set up. But as I had said before, and when we talked about your GitHub, is that you have your own GitHub, right? Your own profile, the things that only you have access to. So I've clicked on mine here. And in here, you have the ability to create a repository, okay, which is what we've done on the other site, so that you can host a website. In which this is a really nice feature of GitHub itself. So really amazing that GitHub gives this out freely. Okay, so here's what you're going to need to do. And by the way, very, very important that you follow the steps I'm about to outline, because if you miss even one of them, you may have to redo it again. So the thing I would tell you is first select your username. So like up here, I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to copy this. Now, of course, I know how to write it, but it's really important because it needs to be exactly whatever your username is. For this to work, you have to start there. And if you don't see where I'm at, let me just make this a little bigger. Oh, doesn't make the, the URL bigger, but all right, so let me come down here. So for mine, you may see this up here, but for mine, I'm going to go to repositories and I'm going to select new. Okay, new repository. Very cool. And here, I'm just going to paste in that first part. Okay. And this is going to be a public repo, but here's the key .github.io. Now, what will tell you, and it will be available because this username is unique to you. So don't change this to anything other than that user name you have on GitHub. Otherwise, it will not work. Rio's GitHub. And we could call it pages because that's ultimately what it creates. And at this point, we'll just go ahead and do a simple README file. We won't do any of this other. You'll learn about this later, and we'll just create the repository. Cool. So now this is created. All right. And now, and let me just show you this. This is the URL that will take you to whatever you create in here. But the thing we have to create first is the basic index file. Okay, so let's just do a little search just because I think this is good, right? So index.html, that's all I'm going to search for. Notice how there's a template in my particular search. And so if I do the template for index.html, let's see what I see. It's actually kind of hoping, okay, Microsoft gives one, but that's a little old. And here's the other thing, is good to understand how to find good references, right? Honestly, the one I would have probably looked for, and I think I'll change this, is to .mdn. Okay, MDN is the Mozilla Developer Network, and it is a really important website. And so I'm going to change my search to include that. And if I come in here, then let's see if I get a good template. Introduction to HTML. Forms. So this reference is so rich. There's so much here. Okay. So what I think I'll do is actually just go into introduction, input types. Let me just go into introduction and see if we get that basic layout of the HTML. So what happens on a site like this is that you get too much information, right? You get too much of that content. Not too much, but for what we want, because we just want that template. So I guess, let's see, looking around, HTML basics, maybe that's the one I want. Oh yeah, so here's where it talks about the anatomy of a tag, which is awesome, understanding that. Oh, there it is. Finally found it. I tell you what, in the write-up, I'll give you this link. Okay. So here's what you can do. Copy this content right here. Okay. So the anatomy of an HTML document. So I guess this is good in the sense that I introduce you to MDN. You'll trust me, if you continue on with this discipline, which I hope you do, you will learn more and more about the great benefits. So now let's come back to GitHub and to specifically our github.io. And let's do this. Let's create a new file. And in this case, we're not going to put it in a subdirectory. We're going to put it in what's called the root. So this is the root of that repo, that folder, you can think of it. And we're going to call it index, again, lowercase, no space, .html. And in here, I'm going to click down here and I'm going to paste that content. Okay. And then in here, I'm just going to show you some minor changes. Okay, now look what it's going to actually do. This actually is going to break right here. I can tell you right now, it's going to break. And we could fix it. Actually, that'd be fun. And actually, maybe that'll be the challenge. Oh yeah, I think that'll be the challenge, is see if you can get your image that we created in the hello world to show up in this index file. That'll be part of how I grade this. Okay, I'm not going to show you that. It'll be a little bit of a challenge for you. But what I do want to do here is I'm going to say Rio Waller. Okay, and I'm going to come down here. Notice also how this is indented. There's actually indentions that show the hierarchy of this file. And in here, I'm going to add one. I'm going to add a H1. I'm going to say hello GitHub pages. Okay, I'm going to end that. And like I told you, once we do the part where we're looking at it as a web page, this is going to be broken, but it'll be your job to both fix this, you know how, and update this. Okay, let's go down here. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this now, I'm going to say setting up my github.io for project 0 for CIT82. Put something like that. Commit the file. Now that we have this file, this is where it gets fun, in my opinion, because now this URL, okay, that is also a repo, actually renders a website. So I could either do one of two things. I could either grab that content, I could hit copy, or I could just go to a new tab and I could type riowaller.com githubpages.io. And look at that. Oh, interestingly enough, because I just created that page, it's not rendering the index page yet because and this is something for you to understand going forward, is changes done, because here we are, we did a new update once the repo was created. That update has not come into the web serving yet. And if you go here before it does, you'll see basically the README file. Okay, that's what you will see. But that's not what we want to see. What we want to see is the index file. So let me see if I refresh it now. Oh, look at that. It did it. Okay. By the way, the other one looked better, didn't it? We'll learn that as we get there. So here was what it is here is your URL for your GitHub pages. So in the discussion, by the way, you need to fix that. You could play with this a little more if you want, but fix the image, right? And do that. And then for your reply here, what you're going to do, and this is really important, right? My GitHub pages URL, and then you will paste in. Oh, by the way, that's not the best way to do it. Let's do it this way. Let's grab this, copy, because I think I had the other one still on my, let's see, paste. Good. That's what you want, HTTP. And when I hit enter here, it actually creates a link. Okay. So here's what I want you to do is think about, right? Now that you've done this, first make sure this link is correct and it renders that and you fixed it. And also think about a website or an idea you want that you've been considering creating. It doesn't necessarily have to be your Project Zero, but it might be. We'll talk about Project Zero as we move into this class. So then that will be what you want to write here. No replies due this week, but again, it's good to look at other people's work and then you post it and you're good to go. Okay, so that's with that one. And hopefully you got that there's a GitHub IO for, or sorry, there's a GitHub for our class, and then there's a Git that is just yours for your content. All right, last topic, really important one. We covered a little HTTP last week, but this week we're going to actually take a little deeper dive. And when I say deeper dive, actually I'm going to do that same thing where I actually open this this is a 5-minute video, but it's actually fairly technical. Understanding HTTP. Hopefully, if you have never heard of it, you'll understand after getting this why it's important for security and how the web wouldn't work the way it does without it. But you'll also understand some more underlying concepts. So here's what I want you to do. A lot of different topics in here is like watch the video and think, watch the video and then consider, I should put a slash there, the various topics covered and find additional research regarding the topics here. So as an example, if I jumped in, one of the first things he'll talk about is just how HTTP works a little bit, and then HTTPS, the secure part of HTTP works. And then he talks about TCP/IP. So that's a topic that if you don't know what TCP/IP is, you could research that. And then so he goes on to talk about like HTTP, like I said, understanding encryption. Maybe it's encryption you want to talk about a little more. What I like about this, let's see if he gave an outline. Did he give an outline? Oh, in this case, we didn't get an outline. Sometimes, and this is YouTube starting to do this, is actually YouTube is starting to automatically index web video in order to give you that chapter by chapter. But this is relatively quick. I do want you to watch the whole thing. At the end, what I want you to have is something you've researched. And by the way, provide links to that research. Okay, write 150 words, do the research. And the research, when you write about it, is not copying and pasting text. Don't do that. What you want to do here is find something you want to learn about, read it, and then write it in your own words. Really, really important here. Okay, so provide the links to what you researched, right? Or where you found this information. First, the topic you selected, right? Then the research, the link to the research, and then your writing, and here's a really good way to put this is just put it in your own words, your understanding. Maybe why this was something that was important to you is some way to start, and then also what did you learn from doing the research is really what I want here. Okay, so this one does require 2 substantive replies in addition to your post. All right, I hope this video helps you navigate this week. I'll talk to you later.